evening, I'm Toby Marsh, and some of the staff here at Channel 2 are manning a picket line in front of the station. They're on strike against the company. Brad Ganson has a report on the situation as it now stands.
All day long, reporters, anchor persons, and announcers, members of the Baltimore-Washington local of the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists have been picketing the studios of WMAR. They walked off the job last night at midnight after bargaining failed to produce a new contract for the workers. Picket lines went up as early as 6:30 a.m., and supervisory personnel began filling key positions. Approximately 20 staff employees walked off the job after no agreement could be reached on the issue of overtime payments.
The key issue in the strike is the overtime situation, whereby the performers for 20 years, ever since we've had a contract with Channel 2, have been paid overtime when they worked the overtime. Now, incredibly enough, the company says, you work the overtime, but you will not be paid for working the overtime.
I think people should be paid properly for the job which they perform. We were prepared to do that directly by giving them all of their overtime in an extraordinary year, saying that that's not going to happen again, and it probably won't, and adding that to their base salary. We felt that dealt directly with the issue.
The strike also affects announcers working for WRLX-FM. No new negotiations are planned at this time. Brad Ganson, News Scene 2.
I, too, am a member of the union AFTRA, and after much thought, I made the most difficult decision of my life so far, that decision to continue doing the job for which I was hired. Now, I made that decision based on my sense of appreciation and obligation to my employer, WMAR-TV, to you, the viewer, but most of all because of the obligation to myself and the principles in which I strongly believe. A statewide effort by crime victims to toughen criminal laws moved from living rooms and school auditoriums to the governor's office today. We have a report.
Rita First, whose husband was shot and killed last August as he rode a moped, she and other members of her family met privately with Governor Hughes to urge support of stiffer laws for parole and juvenile offenses and to eliminate plea bargain abuses. After the 10-minute meeting, they presented Governor Hughes with petitions bearing more than 20,000 signatures, calling for reform of the criminal justice system. Governor Hughes said the petitions were the kind of support he needs to pass the tougher gun control law, now before the state legislature, and to counteract lobbying efforts by the National Rifle Association. After meeting with Governor Hughes, Mrs. First said the members of Citizens United for Justice would shift their attention from the legislative process to the courts.
We're going to start monitoring the courts.
How would you do that?
Individuals will go and sit in courts and keep records of sentencing.
Keep records of the judge's actions?
Right, exactly.
And once you get a record, what would you do with that?
Well, we'll figure that one out next, but we'll keep it.
Do you hope this will scare the judges in the tougher sentencing?
If you want to use that kind of a word, yes.
The group plans to start monitoring sentencing by judges next month and warns that today's visit to the governor is not the end, just the beginning.
We really, with the Vidding family, have really started something rolling. I don't think we're following anybody. I think we came out of the woods and really started something, and we're not going out of business now that my husband's trial is over, and when the legislature goes off, we'll still be in business. We're going to be around for quite a while.
Mrs. First also said that she recently took a gun course and supported Baltimore City Attorney General in his defense of those using guns to protect themselves. In fact, she says a cab driver who shot and killed that robbery suspect deserves a medal. When State's Attorney William Swisher came out with his shoot first, ask questions later policy, he made some big local headlines, but now he is in the national view. So this morning on NBC's Today Show, he defended his policy of not prosecuting citizens who use deadly force defending themselves against criminals.
Execute crimes, but to also see that justice is done. And if a citizen, a store owner, a businessman is rightfully defending himself, he knows that within a second the robber might pull the trigger. If he can pull his trigger first, he has the right to do so, and the public prosecutor must defend that right.
Swisher says he doesn't want people to pack guns and shoot at every shadow that moves, but he says the public must protect itself. The Baltimore area was hit with yet another fire tragedy today. This time a mother and her son died. Now her husband and two small children are fighting for their lives. Gary Wardlaw reports.
Neighbors say it only took minutes for the blaze to completely destroy the house and all its contents, but the greatest loss was that of their friends. Killed were Evelina Oxier and her son Ricky, and critically injured were 4-year-old Evelina Lisa Rode and her 9-year-old brother Frederick. Also critically injured was 54-year-old George Rode, but before he was taken to a hospital, he managed to talk with a friend.
Well, I woke up about a little after 2. I was getting ready to go to work, and when I came down, I noticed there was flames shooting out. It had just started, and the whole house was engulfed in fire. And the man came running out the back, and he was running up and down the alley, and the only thing he kept hollering was, "My kids, my kids." And then I talked to him, and we got him in our house and sit down and calmed him down, and then the firemen went in and got the rest of them out. When they brought the 19-year-old boy, they found him in the back bedroom. He was already, there was nothing they could do for him. And the mother, they brought her out, and the other 2 youngest ones.
It will be some time before fire officials release the cause of the blaze, but family members say a small electric heater placed too close to a living room sofa may have been to blame. Gary Wardlaw, News Scene 2.
2 people remain hospitalized following an accident between a fire engine and a car today. The engine was responding to a fire near St. Agnes Hospital when it hit the car at Wilkins and Canton Avenues. 2 firefighters and the car's 2 passengers were treated for bruises and back injuries. Firefighter Ernest O'Keefe is being kept overnight for observation, and Mrs. Rebecca Johnson remains hospitalized with a fracture. A board of inquiry is trying to find out why that Air Florida jet crashed into the Potomac in January, so it's asking the survivors for answers. One of the survivors testified at today's public hearing. Stewardess Kelly Duncan said the plane began shuddering violently as it took off from National Airport.
I was in water. I didn't realize I was in water. I just was disoriented. And I had to swim to the top of the water to get to the top. And when I came to the top of the water, I was approximately probably 10 to 15 feet from the wreckage. And I could see the shore, and I thought I could get back to the shore, but I thought I would go back to the fuselage and try to pull myself together a little bit. There was so much ice in the water that when I was swimming to the fuselage, I had to push chunks of ice out of the way. And then the helicopters came.
Beginning tonight, the FAA will place tough restrictions on operations at National Airport, prohibiting takeoffs after 10 p.m. and landings after 10:30. Any operations after that time must meet strict noise requirements. Still to come on News Scene 2, it looks as though our dry skies could be turning wet and slippery, and police search for the bombers of Wall Street.
Can you suggest a nice soft color to match this peach blush?
The gum won't.
A boom hit Wall Street early this morning, but not the kind of boom business likes. A series of bombings rocked the New York and American stock exchanges, damaging entrances and shattering glass. But after some hurried cleanup and patchwork, the markets opened on time. A Puerto Rican terrorist group claims responsibility for that. And now that Wayne Williams has been convicted of 2 of the Atlanta murders, what about the other cases? Investigators huddled in Atlanta to talk about that. During his trial, Williams was linked to a total of 12 killings. Now the chief prosecutor says police are likely to close cases where there is more than one type of evidence against Williams. Ford has its new contract this evening. Leaders of the United Auto Workers Union formally signed the deal today, helping the automakers save money while saving jobs for the UAW. We have this report.
This is, by almost everyone's account, an historic day in labor relations. Formal signing ceremonies will be held today in Dearborn, Michigan, but Ford's new contract with the UAW took effect just after midnight last night, after overwhelming approval by the rank and file. Jim Cummins reports.
The Union Auto Workers, by a 3-to-1 margin, ratified the new contract with Ford to freeze their wages in exchange for more job security. Job security is important to the workers at this Ford parts plant in Ypsilanti, Michigan. More than half the people at this plant are on layoff. Workers here voted 13-to-1 for the new contract. Among the yes votes was Art Griffith, a grinder in the tool room.
If we wait till September, I know there'd be a strike. So I feel we come out of it pretty good. We've got a 31-month breather now. Things could straighten out by then.
Zenas Napier, a punch press operator, changed his mind at the last minute to vote in favor of concessions to Ford.
It's better to lose a little than lose it all.
Donald Miller, a utility worker, voted against the contract because he doesn't like the precedent it sets.
It's concession fever. It's going to keep going and going.
But Floyd Ford disagrees. Ford was laid off despite 14 years seniority at the Ypsilanti plant, a shock to him and his wife, Patsy. Ford says it's always better to give up a pay raise than to be laid off.
We didn't really have too much to bargain with, okay? Because we didn't know what tomorrow was going to have in store for us, so we had to take what we could. And as far as I could see, we're not really losing much.
Ford Motor Company will be gaining more than $1 million a day in labor costs under its new agreement with the union. Jim Cummins, NBC News.
The government says it will begin prosecuting young men who haven't registered for the draft. The grace period for those who hadn't signed up ended yesterday. Now, the maximum penalty is a $10,000 fine and 5 years in prison. Now, the whole issue of a peacetime draft has stirred up a great deal of opposition. And standing by live now is a local spokesman for that group. She is Fran Donnellan. And Fran, the first question is, do you have any advice for people who haven't signed up, any kind of legal procedures that you could help them with?
Well, Toby, the very first thing that we tell them is to get themselves in touch with the draft counselor as soon as possible. There are thousands of people who don't even know why they haven't registered, and many others who know why they haven't but haven't in any way investigated legal help.
What kind of legal help are you talking about?
We have formed a panel of lawyers who are specializing in non-registration cases, and we can put young people in touch with those panel lawyers, and we can also offer paralegal counseling for them and their parents. It's important that the parents get involved in this issue also.
Fran, I think it's also important to point out that even though they didn't meet the deadline yesterday, the government has said that they still will allow people to sign up for the next few days or so without being penalized. Is that true?
I think that all they want is compliance, and no matter when a person goes in, they're not going to turn them down. That was the word a year ago, and I don't think it's changed. But I would question the compliance figures that they have. I think we're still about 1 million people short.
Okay. Fran Donnellan, thank you very much for being with us. Now let's take a look at today's weather. Our cool but clear skies could be in for quite a change over the next 24 hours as a new front moves our way. Right now it is 44 degrees in Baltimore under partly cloudy skies. The relative humidity is 48%. The winds are out of the south-southwest at 11 miles per hour. Barometric pressure is falling at 29.81. Well, that sounds pretty good right now, but wait, the forecast for the rest of tonight calls for partly cloudy skies with temperatures in the upper 20s to low 30s. Tomorrow, we will be seeing more and more clouds with a chance of rain late in the day. Highs should get up into the upper 40s. Then starting late Tuesday into Wednesday, some of the rain could turn into snow with lows around 32, but later in the day, temperatures should climb to about 40 degrees. Well, it is make it or break it time for UMBC tonight. We'll see what's at stake and the rest of the day in sports when News Scene 2 returns.
You've got to taste that Breyers yogurt. Feel that Breyers yogurt. Smooth texture, smooth as silk. Creamy, made from fresh whole milk. As good as it feels.
All natural Breyers yogurt.
Breyers, it tastes as good as it feels.
Everybody's talking about rebates, but at Jerry Chevrolet, we're doing more than just talking. The severe winter has left us with a huge inventory of cars and trucks, and we'll do almost anything to make a sale. When you combine General Motors' offer of $750 or $500 cash rebate with our policy of doing whatever it takes to make a deal.
Relief of constipation problems. Predictable Dulcolax, tablets for overnight relief or suppositories that work in under 1 hour.
First First of all, who are you? Now, this is Jack Dawson. He's not a new face at Channel 2. He's been around for how long now? A long time.
Well, 73 years.
73 years.
By actual count.
He's been behind the scenes producing sports, and now he's going to be doing sports for a while. Big one for UMBC tonight.
Yeah, if the college basketball heroics of the weekend were not enough to leave you limp, Toby, your local round ball fans have another nail-biter situation tonight over in Catonsville. The UMBC Retrievers, working here against Frostburg State last Tuesday night, are in one of those do-or-die situations tonight against Cheney State. UMBC set this one up with a win over Randolph-Macon Saturday night. And now the deal is this. If the Retrievers can find their way past the top-seeded bunch from Cheney, they make the ECAC South Tournament. If they cannot, Virginia Union gets in and UMBC season is over. The Retrievers are more than respectable this season, 17-7, but it seems every one of those 7 losses came at just the right time to hurt their playoff chances the most. Tonight at 7:15, it's all in one ball game, and we'll tell you about it tonight at 11. In case you missed the word last night, the great Gretzky had one of his off nights at the Capitol Center last night, only 2 goals and 1 assist as the Oilers beat the Capitals 4-1. We'll have some pictures of Wayne Gretzky and company in the sports report on News Scene 2 at 6 o'clock. Well, this is one of those days on the baseball calendar. It's the 1st of March, and according to the terms of the contract with the Players Association, this is the first day players may be required to show up for spring training. We all know just about everybody's been at work before today, but now we can officially list the holdouts for you, and there are a few around. But this guy's at the head of the list. He's Fernando Valenzuela, the Dodger phenom, and you know he's been having a little difference of opinion with the management over salary terms. Well, he isn't with the Dodgers today, so you can now call him a holdout. His agent and the Dodger brass are supposed to be meeting today to try to narrow their gap. Little happiness has crept into the Milwaukee Brewers training camp. Catcher and outfielder Charlie Moore has had a heart-to-heart with general manager Harry Dalton, and Moore now says the trade demands may be forgotten. He'll stay with the Brewers, he says, now that he's convinced they need him. After Ted Simmons came to the Brewers from the Cards last year, Moore's playing time nosedived, and he's been a little out of shape ever since. Dalton apparently has convinced him the Brewers really love him, and that's nice. If you've been watching the regular folks here for the last week or so, you know we've been hard at the task of letting you know what's going on with the Orioles as they go through the early stages of spring training in Miami Stadium. Our News Scene 2 camera crews have been zapping all over the place down there, and today they give us a little something different to look at, sort of the sights and sounds of spring training set to 3/4 time, or whatever time it is.
Do you see any base runners, sir? No, you got a coach. You get some ground ball over there. You ran over, they throw the ball to you, and they go, ee-hee-hee. They try to throw it behind you, try to hurt you.
There's no play. It's all up to your judgment as to where we can go. Run, run, run!
God, they're having a great time.
Yeah, just about did that. We have some more time, right? Oh. Yeah, all right. I'll tell you, Toby, don't bet the mortgage.
I'm listening, Jack.
Don't bet the mortgage on it just yet. We got the word from Atlantic City last night that Sugar Ray Leonard's going to defend his title probably in May and probably against Roger Stafford of Philadelphia. Now, Stafford happens to be fighting in Atlantic City tomorrow night. This could all be hype.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. We'll see you at 6.
Okay.
It's got to go somewhere, but nobody wants it. The sludge dump wars continue in a moment.
Can you remember what cereal you had this morning?
It was some kind of flakes.
Sure, Quaker 100% natural.
Well, it was sort of beige.
Sure, Quaker 100% natural.
No, but I remember the banana.
Quaker 100% natural.
Nobody can forget the taste of Quaker 100% natural. That crunchy mix of raisins and dates and almonds and coconut and oats and whole wheat and brown sugar and honey. Quaker 100% natural.
The taste is unforgettable.
After 35 years, by order of the Board of Directors, Two Guys is completely liquidating in all their remaining stores. Yes, Two Guys is closing their doors forever in all stores. The balance of Two Guys' entire $18 million inventory must be sold immediately, regardless of cost or loss. You can save 30% to 50% and more on everything. That's right, save 30% to 50% and more on everything throughout the stores. Look for the Red Tag Super Discount Specials. Our Laws is your big gain. First come, first serve. Pay cash or use your MasterCard or Visa card. Remember, now you can save 30% to 50% and more on everything at Two Guys. Yes, you can save 30% to 50% and more on everything at Two Guys. Two Guys stores open Monday through Saturday from 9:30 a.m. till 9:30 p.m. Hurry to Two Guys' amazing going out of business sale going on right now for the buys of a lifetime. Save 30% to 50% and more. Don't miss it.
Easy does it. Just relax. Lean back. Watch TV. Open up that magic box and look at what's inside. Nothing gets you into it like TV Guide.
TV Guide previews your pleasure, tells you more about what's on, what's going on with TV. This week and every week, get more out of television by TV Guide.
Nothing gets you into it like TV Guide.
The Maryland Health Department will continue its moratorium on the disposal of Black River sludge on productive farmland. That decision was made following a report made at the request of several state and federal agencies. Gary Wardlaw has more.
Sewage from Baltimore finds its way here to the Back River treatment plant in Essex. Once the sewage has been refined, the byproduct becomes a disposal problem. The main disposal site at Reedbird in South Baltimore can't handle all of Baltimore's disposable sludge, so private companies and farmers have assisted the state by allowing sludge to be dumped on farmland. That's where the real problem begins. Growing concern that heavy metals contained in the sludge forced the state health department to issue a temporary ban on dumping the waste on productive farmland. That was to end today, but the state has now changed its mind.
It is our determination at this time to continue that moratorium on the placement of Back River sludge on farmland until the end of this calendar year.
Ike Baum says the state now has time to review the possible effect the dumping will have on productive farmland. He said he hopes today's decision will give all interested parties that breathing space. Gary Wardlaw, News Scene 2.
As we know, the recession has hit industries very hard, such as the automobile and steel industry, especially hard. But some other businesses are feeling that economic pain, too. For instance, the airlines and aircraft companies.
The plane that American Airlines canceled flew for the first time last Friday. The 757 is Boeing's new twin jet, the fuel-efficient successor to its very popular 727. American ordered 15 of them, a contract worth $600 million. But American ran into turbulence. Last year, a fourth-quarter loss of $20 million. Airline chairman Albert Casey said he reluctantly canceled the 757 order. American's decision comes at a time when the Boeing company has taken a risky gamble. It's betting that the world's airlines will beat a path to its hangar to buy the 757 and the larger 767. No new orders have been placed since July. Last year, Boeing laid off 5,000 workers. Another 4,000 are expected to be cut from the Puget Sound payroll this year. Ironically, dropping jet fuel prices are undercutting Boeing's big selling point, a plane that's cheaper to fly than the old gas guzzlers. Still, neither of Boeing's new jet programs is in jeopardy.
Boeing is trying to downplay the significance of the American Airlines cancellation, but when one of Boeing's oldest, biggest, and best customers can't afford a new jet, it has to give Boeing executives queasy stomachs. Dennis Murphy for NBC News, Seattle.
The Baltimore area YMCA is looking for a few good people. Actually, it wants a lot of you. The Y has kicked off its 1982 membership drive by asking everyone to be a hero. A campaign wants people to join, not just for their own fun, but to do something for an organization that's done so much for so many people. Baltimore Oriole King Singleton is heading up that drive, urging everyone to be a hero and join the Y or provide a scholarship for an underprivileged child. And while the Y is pushing your physical education, down on the Inner Harbor, folks are making sure you don't forget the environment. You may not know this, but this is the National Day of the Seal, the kickoff of a national tour called Fur, Flukes, and Flippers. It's a multimedia show meant for elementary school students, showing them the importance of our world's ocean and their inhabitants.
You know, I've had biscuits for breakfast ever since I was 2 years old, and I never had a biscuit this good.
Hardee's new Rise and Shine biscuits, made from scratch every day.
If you thought Hardee's other biscuits were good, you were right. If you think these are better, you're right again.
They're bigger, they're light, they're heavenly.
Hardee's new Rise and Shine homemade biscuits. Now, nothing should be that good. Wait till Grandma hears about this.
Hardee's, best eating in town, up and down all around.
It's a buyer's market at Jerry Chevrolet. The customer's king and can just about write his own ticket. We'll do whatever it takes to make a deal.
Marva Collins Part 2, the second in a two-part presentation regarding another look at Marva Collins, Chicago's miracle teacher, the subject of a flattering report on 60 Minutes. She was the subject of the Hallmark Hall of Fame, starring Cicely Tyson. Now, less flattering information about Marva Collins. We'll talk to her about that on our next show.
Tuesday morning at 9 on Donahue.
Coming up on News Scene at 6, we'll get a first-hand look at a new safety crackdown on trucks that ride Maryland highways. We'll also check on a community problem involving some factory fallout and a report on the drug DES, all ahead on News Scene at 6. It has been a gorgeous day for getting out in your neighborhood and maybe plan your spring garden. So how about doing both with a welcome to Gardenville?
Welcome to Channel 2, WMAR-TV, Baltimore.
Good evening, I'm Brad Ganson. Most of the on-the-air talent at WMAR-TV are on strike. Reporters, anchor persons, announcers belonging to AFTRA, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, walked off the job in a dispute over whether or not they should be paid overtime. A union official said he could not understand the company's position, the decision not to pay union employees overtime. But WMAR-TV News Director John Butte said the new offer included a pay increase to compensate workers what they would be making under the old system. The news director said reporters and anchor people are professionals, and they should be paid as such. One AFTRA member who did cross the picket line and come to work is Toby Marsh. Toby, why?
Well, Brad, it was a very difficult decision for me. I listened to both sides, and I'm sorry that there were both sides. But I had to make a personal decision based upon my principles. And I personally felt and do feel very strongly that the management's offer was fair, that we are professionals, and that we were and are being very well compensated for what we're doing, and I couldn't do it, especially in light of so many people out there who are suffering. I mean, people are really struggling to make a living, and for me to give up a job, I just couldn't do it, and it was my own decision, and I hope we're all back together soon.
I hope so, too. Well, union negotiator Don Gaynor says his side is ready to return to the bargaining table at any time, but no new negotiations are scheduled at this point. A WRLX-FM, sister station to Channel 2, was also struck by AFTRA, but all of its AFTRA employees have crossed the picket line so far today, according to the station's general manager. Well, nothing can be closer to us than the air we breathe or the sounds we hear. And perhaps nothing can affect our home life more than a constant irritation in the air or a loud noise at night. These are just some of the problems facing a community in East Highlandtown, as we hear in this report.
I would say let him get competent individuals in that know what, hear that? Would you like to live with that all the time? That's it, night and day.
The "it" that Nina Ketchum refers to is the noise and air pollution coming from the Monarch Rubber Company in East Baltimore. Residents say the plant is a nuisance and believe plant Vice President Robert Schwaber is not doing enough to correct the problem.
I feel like that it's a detriment to our neighborhood, that we have money invested in our homes and that we have as much of a right to take and expect him to be a good neighbor as we are to be a good neighbor to him.
The residents say the neighborhood has been coated with a sandy grit that makes it hard for them to keep their homes clean. And there is an odor of rubber in the air most of the time. But the noise coming from a dust collector at the rear of the plant is the most unbearable part of the problem. Plant spokesman Robert Schwaber says steps are being taken to correct the irritation. He says the plant has not violated any health or safety regulations in recent months. The residents say even though there is no violation, a study last month by the State Department of Environmental Health show particles of glass dust, glass fibers, rubber dust, and other hazards coming from the plant. The residents say no one from the plant will talk about the pollution, but Schwaber counters.
That's not true. We have talked to the representatives, Mr. DePietro and Mr. McDonald, I believe it is, and I've invited him here to the plant to go through the plant with us anytime he wants to.
Have they complied with your invitation?
Not at this time.
State Delegate Pat McDonough says his office became aware of the neighborhood complaint 3 weeks ago and says a meeting set for this Wednesday between residents and state environmental officials will produce further action. Bill Seiler, News Scene 2.
Some people who live in the little historic Maryland town of Newmarket in Frederick County are up in arms tonight as well. They are fighting hard to keep a $1 million truck stop from being built in their area. It looks as though they will have to take their case to the courts since a bill to stop construction has been ruled unconstitutional by the state attorney general.
The problems of trucks with bad safety equipment came rolling out of the mountains of western Maryland last year.
If you remember, that's when a tractor-trailer rig with faulty brakes went out of control, raced down a mountainside, and did not stop until it had killed 3 people and crashed into a store along Frostburg's Main Street. Since then, state police have increased efforts to crack down on trucks by using portable inspection stations. There was one in operation today at the Bay Bridge.
We're trying to discover and catch all the violations we possibly can as far as safety equipment on tractor-trailers. Going down through the across the Bay Bridge, we're checking 5 critical areas: steering, wheels, tires, coupling devices, and brakes. We have one Maryland truck that has just been pulled over to the side, has 8 brakes on the trailer, one of which is operational.
Violators are pulled over and fined or ordered to fix equipment. To go through the 15-minute inspection, trucks crossing the bridge were rolled onto metal scales to make sure each axle did not exceed 34,000 pounds. The trucks were then inspected for safety and cargo violations by U.S. highway officials. Inspectors admit that they'll check fewer than 100 of the thousands of trucks using Maryland highways today, and that CB radio chatter tips off violators. But that's okay.
They do forewarn people coming down the road that we are doing an operation here. There's 2 schools of thought. They may stop and make the repairs before they get here, or may it be a power of suggestion where they'll fix their equipment before they ever come on the roads, and that's what we're really after.
The inspection amounted to a delay for truckers, but not all truckers minded the wait.
No, I wasn't tipped off.
Are you going to tip off the rest of them when you pull out?
No, I'm not, for one reason, because if the equipment is not right, I think they should run into it and get it right. I've been driving since 1942. I've been driving 40 years, and I think any equipment should be right for the road.
Besides making truckers safety conscious, today's inspections are aimed at state and national politicians. There are bills in both Congress and the state legislature that would give local police more powers to inspect trucks. A Howard County judge today ordered a 26-year-old Columbia woman held without bail in connection with the death of her 5-year-old son. Beverly Pouncey was arrested yesterday after calling police to her apartment. When they arrived, the apartment was on fire. Once the fire was put out, they found the badly burned body of the boy on top of a gas stove.
And 2 children remain in grave condition tonight at the City Hospital's burn unit after an early morning fire in Essex. 2 other people were pronounced dead at the scene. The victims are 40-year-old Evelina Oxier and Ricky Oxier. He's 19. 9-year-old Frederick Rode and his 4-year-old sister Evelina are being treated for smoke inhalation and burns. As News Scene 2 continues, we'll tell you about our upcoming weather. We'll sample some student opinion about draft registration. Also, the taxman has some